Welcome to the Nonprofit Voice, a podcast series brought to you by NonProfit Pro, the go-to resource for nonprofit management and strategy. In each episode, we're going to sit down with leaders of nonprofit organizations, the people responsible for paving the way for our sector, along with key technology strategy partners who are transforming our industry. Here at the Nonprofit Voice, we'll have refreshing conversations in which we will all learn more about the convergence of nonprofit and technology. Be sure to follow us on social media and visit our website to find more episodes of the Nonprofit Voice. And you can download all of the Nonprofit Voice episodes on iTunes, Google Play, or Spotify. We will have all the links down below. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Nonprofit Voice. I'm Nhu Te, Editor-in-Chief of NonProfit Pro, and I'll be your host for today's episode. And as always, thank you so much for joining us today. So I've got two special guests waiting on the line with me today. Please join me in welcoming Francesca Albano, Director of Brand and Content at World Relief, and Doug Scott, founder of Tectonic Video. Welcome, guys. How are you both doing today?
Hey, Nhu. I'm good. How are you?
Doing well.
Doing great. Thank you so much.
Awesome. So happy to hear it. So before we jump into today's topic, I usually get started with getting our audience to get to know you guys a little bit more and about the organizations you guys work for. So Francesca, let's start with you. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background, how you found yourself at World Relief, and of course, more about the organization itself?
Sure, I'd love to. So I am a little bit of a third culture kid from a pretty multicultural family. My dad was raised in Ireland and my mom actually grew up in Kenya. So, travel was a huge part of my childhood. And my parents were pretty intentional about instilling this global citizenship mindset in me from a pretty young age. So I've also been a passionate storyteller as long as I can remember. I've loved being able to write about the experiences and cultures and places that I've encountered during this time. And that passion is really what led me to studying anthropology in college, and then following that actually course communications and marketing at grad school. And I think just seeing the power that writing and ethical storytelling could have in really opening people's eyes up to the world and kind of shaping or even amending their views on different cultures and people and issues is really what led me to my role today at World Relief. So as content director at World Relief, I'm really able to marry this love for storytelling and communication with my passion to kind of connect people to the humanitarian issues around the globe that really need our attention. World Relief itself is a global humanitarian nonprofit. We work to tackle some of the world's biggest problems, for everything from disasters to extreme poverty, violence and oppression, and mass displacement and immigration. We have worked in kind of over 100 countries around the world since our founding about 75 years ago. And we also have 16 offices here in the US.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing. And
Yeah.
Doug, please tell us more about you.
Well, I am a film school dropout. I had always dreamed of going to Hollywood. I dreamed of being in movies since I was a little kid. I loved going to the movie theater and watching movies at least a few times a week. So I saved up my pennies and studied real hard and went away to film school in LA. And within just a few months, it became very clear to me that it was not really what I was looking to do with my life. So this allowed me to enter into a full-blown quarter-life crisis, trying to figure out what the next thing in my life was supposed to be. And I got involved still involved in the arts. I always loved the arts and had done the theater, had done some writing, and I fell into doing live event production. So that could be, a gathering for a couple hundred people or a few thousand people and overseeing the production of the live event. And it was amazing. I loved that. You get a huge adrenaline rush right before the show goes on, and being able to produce those events is really, really fun and exciting.
Mm-hmm.
But after a few years of that, the hours were brutal, the travel's amazing yet exhausting. I was very much ready for a break. And so I had always wanted to travel, had never really left the United States, the opposite of what Francesca was describing. And so I thought, maybe this is my chance. So I, again, saved up my money and went on a trip, and I bought a one-way ticket to Ireland and thought I'd figure it out. And then 1 year later, I was able to return back to the United States and had a really amazing opportunity to travel around the world and see all that was going on. And was able to visit over 50 countries. And as I was traveling, I just kept running into people around the world who were doing amazing work with nonprofit organizations. And they would invite me to come and see what they were doing. And when that was happening, I would, of course, would go and see what was going on. And I was just blown away by the work that was happening on the ground. And then I would go to their website, or I would go and watch their videos. And it became very painful to see how they were unable to communicate what they were doing in an effective way. So I thought, aha, this might be what I could do. I can use the skills that I have in telling stories to be able to help nonprofit organizations get their message out there and help them communicate more effectively. So I came back to the US, I finished up my degree in communications, and through a few different roundabout ways and turns along the way, have now started my own company, Tectonic Video, and we work only with nonprofit organizations. It's awesome. We get to help nonprofits tell their stories and to be able to communicate what they do around the world, and I have the best job ever.
I love to hear it. And with both of your backgrounds, I think it's gonna, be great for today's topic of conversation. So for everyone listening, I've asked both Francesca and Doug to join me today on today's episode because I wanted to dive a little bit deeper into video for nonprofits. So in our conversation, we're going to get into understanding better video strategy. We're going to understand different platforms, learning more about creating quality videos on a tight budget, and so many more things. So let's get into my first question. And Doug, maybe you can kick us off here. There's been an uptick in videos within the past 5 years or so that I've noticed, and it's become such an important and valuable way for people to connect to brands. Can you talk about the growth of videos and why it has become such a staple in today's communications?
I would love to. This is a topic I get really passionate about. Video is incredibly powerful medium. To quote our friend or enemy, Mark Zuckerberg, he says that video will be as big of a shift in the way that the world communicates as much as mobile has been. So think about that. Think about how much our world transformed when we began to have this computer in our pocket and we could use it to get around and to communicate and to do work. He thinks video will be the exact same kind of disruptive force that mobile was. And we've already begun to see this. A lot of brands online are shifting almost to a video first approach in doing their storytelling. And Zuckerberg, in a separate quote, said that he imagines that the next few years, there'll be almost no more static content on Facebook at all. It'll be moving so much more toward video. And that's everything from selfie videos to little things you can do with different websites to generate, using text and photos to create like a really cool animated slideshow, all the way up to very highly produced video as well. And the reasons for that, there are a bunch of reasons for that. Number one, video is extremely efficient. So practically speaking, it takes 60 seconds to read 250 words. But in that same 60 seconds of video, you could show dozens of images that are rich in color and detail and provide context that would require thousands of written words to communicate. Video is also highly engaging. It's the only medium that combines all the others. It has images and music and design elements, and it can have copy on the screen and human voice. It also engages numerous learning styles at once, and it makes an incredibly emotionally charged experience for a mass audience that's repeatable. There's nothing else that has that kind of power imbued into the medium. And then lastly, video is preferred over other forms of communication. People just like it better. On social media, a recent study by Facebook Insights showed that people look at video content 5 times longer on the platform than static content. 5 times longer for a video as opposed to just something that would be a static image. And that video is shared more frequently. It often generates more engagement. And other research I've seen says that when both video and text are available on the same web page, 72% of people choose to watch the video rather than read the copy. I'm one of those 72%. and that one's preference for video increases as their age decreases. So if you're trying to be able to connect with young people, if you're trying to get new donors or young people to volunteer for your organization, like they want video increasingly more so the younger that they are. So all those things combine to show how powerful video is, and then what the shift has been towards video, why that shift is taking place.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And, video is such a powerful tool, but it's also a lot more enticing. And you just talked about it a little bit, but if you look at all this popular social media apps, you look at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, it's mainly video and pictures and visuals because they're more easily digested by audiences rather than kind of reading a big block of text, right? So Francesca, I wanted to loop you in here, as the director of branded content for such a large global organization. I'm interested in hearing your thoughts on, why video is so important and like how you've seen it evolve over the years.
Yeah, definitely. I think, Doug covered a lot of great points, but I do really resonate with his point about video just being highly engaging in a way that other content just isn't. In today's world, we are bombarded with so much content everywhere. I think the average person in the US sees somewhere between 6,000 and 10,000 messages a day, whether that's a commercial or an advertisement or a pop-up on their website, and that's just too much information for anyone's brain to process. So our brains developed kind of this natural survival mechanism to filter out all the messages that we know are going to take us too much time and too much energy and burn too many calories to understand. So what that means is that, a lot of this long form written content, complex graphics, any kind of jargon or program speak or really metric heavy messaging is getting ignored by a pretty large segment of people, no matter how great the content is. Video is just such a fantastic tool for brands to consider because it is so easy to consume in comparison to all of that other content. It doesn't work the brain too hard. On the contrary, it actually really excites the brain. The visual elements of video, especially when combined with a good story, you can look at these images and see the way that a brain lights up when it begins to hear story and see pictures and hear a narrative that corresponds to that video. Our brains click into this hyper-focused state that really allows us to absorb and engage what we're viewing, unlike any other medium. So beyond that, and in the nonprofit sphere especially, I think video just elicits emotion in a way that other forms of content struggle to do. It really gives us that human connection, and especially for World Relief, as we're trying to engage our donors in what's happening somewhere on the other side of the world, and for them to get to meet people and experience, some of what other people are experiencing in a place they'll never go to and they'll never see. It really has that connection. It really builds that relationship. So when used the right way, video can just be incredibly effective and profitable as well.
Yeah, I love what you said about video being able to capture that, human connection and human emotion. I think, while we can read a great, engaging story through a big block of copy, I think being able to see it, it just resonates so much better. So I want to get into, video strategy. What does that look like for World Relief? And, talk about how you've seen it evolve over the years.
Yeah, definitely. So World Relief has really increased our use of video, to your earlier point, really over the last 3 or 4 years, tenfold. And I'd say our video content today really revolves around 4 main categories. Those are, story-based videos, explainer videos, campaign engagement videos, and then these kind of behind the scenes or staff vlog type videos. And I can dive into each one of those a little more. Story-based videos, as I mentioned previously, are just incredibly effective for capturing people's attention. I think especially those top of the funnel prospects who we haven't yet converted. So people that really don't know anything about us. And again, that's because the human brain is really wired for stories. And when videos tell compelling stories, they create those strong connections quickly. And they really draw viewers into an experience. So as an example, we actually worked with Doug back in 2017 to tell the story of an Iraqi refugee named Al, who was resettled by World Relief. And it was kind of about his experience transitioning to life in the US and rebuilding his life in this country. And it's just such a powerful video because it tells his story with dignity and mutuality, but also elicits this really strong, empathetic, and compassionate response in viewers. I've watched it 20 times and I still tear up or get goosebumps, you know, and I think anyone watching that is going to understand and remember the story long after the video itself has ended. And that's really vital in you know, building brand salience and recall as well. So story-based videos are awesome, and we use them a lot specifically to tell stories of our beneficiaries. The second type that we use a lot is called the explainer video, and we use this format of videos a lot, primarily for our brand introduction video, but then as well as to kind of describe a couple of specific programs or maybe product offerings that we have. And these videos kind of essentially answer the really basic question, who are you and what do you do? Or what does that specific program do? It's highly effective, especially for nonprofits, because it really helps us simplify complex concepts through animation or graphics or other imagery. And again, for those people who don't know a lot about you, those top of the funnel prospects, they have a really low threshold for absorbing these long written explanations or, you know, big bulleted lists or jargony text when they're first trying to learn about an organization. So our goal with these is just to lay it out in a way that really removes that barrier to engagement, which basically means under 3 minutes, stripped of jargon, only super high level information. Our goal here is really to ensure that the person watching the video remembers 2, maybe 3 critical pieces of information about World Relief, but no more than that. This third category, campaign engagement videos, we use that a little more sparingly and kind of more often around our year-end or other calendar campaigns like International Women's Day. So these videos really do fall into the category of my job title, branded content, because quite often they're completely focused on adding value or building or deepening relationships with our audiences. So they're heavy on this inspiration factor. Our only goal is really like social sharing and engagement, getting people to feel like our brand and that message is something that, hey, I agree with that. I identify with that and I want to be a part of that. So I'm going to share it because this resonates with me. Another example here is just a video we did for our year-end campaign back in 2018. It was a campaign called Love in Action. And the video was just a reading of a verse, 1 Corinthians 13. A lot of people, you know, recognize that verse. It's read a ton at weddings. It's the one that begins with love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy. And it was basically like a compilation of images showing what love in action looks like, and then juxtaposed against the news headlines of that year. And our engagement on that video was just so strong because it came at a time when people were really, I think, yearning for that message and needing to hear it. So our audience really responded. And I think anytime we're able to create that sense of gratitude through our content, we're really deepening our audience's trust and commitment to our brand. And hopefully building brand ambassadors too down the line. The last category, which I'll just speak to very quickly, and because we've used it a lot more, particularly over the last 6 months, is this kind of direct-to-camera staff vlog. And this style of video is just awesome for donors who want to get more of a kind of behind-the-scenes look at the work we do on a day-to-day basis. It's great, again, you get that one-on-one human connection, it feels authentic, and it really increases our connection to the donor to help them feel like they understand what's actually happening on the ground and who's doing it. These are just so good because people obviously trust people more than they do organizations, right? So we see these kind of videos just really increasing trust and transparency with our audiences as well. So those are kind of the main four areas that that we like to dabble in, and Doug and his team have helped us significantly in all of those areas.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's so great to hear. Doug, I know you work with so many other nonprofits, including World Relief. What are some trends you're seeing with nonprofits, and do you have any recommendations on, tactics or strategies that you've seen to be really effective?
So trends that I'm seeing are people are really starting to think about having different types of videos. I think that in the past, people used to put a video for their organization into a single bucket, and it was like the big video. Like, we make one video a year. It's going to be at the annual event, and it's going to feature, all these different people in it. It's a big, huge ordeal. And not that you shouldn't have that really great kind of foundational evergreen video, but there's so many other opportunities that you can have to have video throughout the year for your organization. And what Francesca was talking about is what I'm seeing more and more of, is people beginning to realize that there's a huge world of opportunity to integrate video throughout your entire organization. And it doesn't all have to have the same production quality. Like, when we talk about it with our clients, we talk about how there are these core brand video assets. These are the things that we think you should focus on first. And these are the ones, and Francesca was describing the way that we talk about it. Like, these brand assets are, what's your kind of brand film or an organizational overview film that's going to be key for people coming to your organization. You just want to know more about what you do, why you do it. Explainer videos, donor testimonials, campaign videos as well. Like, we think those are the ones you'd want to put a little bit of extra effort into and resources into, whether or not you're hiring an agency or you're doing it internally. But there's a whole bunch of other videos that nonprofits are creating, and that can be around social media videos, live streaming. Those could be user-generated videos from volunteers or from donors or from even beneficiaries to the organization, just recording something very briefly. It has a very visceral and authentic feel, and that really resonates on social media. So we're seeing more and more people using different types of video throughout their communications. And that's a good thing, because as we talked about earlier, video is so compelling. It's just going to help your organization reach more people and compel more people. And the tactics that I'm really recommending people do these days is, because there's so much video now and so many opportunities to use video, I want everybody, if I could, if I had my magic wand, it would say, okay, everybody stop. Now, benchmark where you're at right now and look at where, we don't use the word competitor in the nonprofit space, but we use the word peers. Look at what your peer organizations are doing. Benchmark yourselves against them, and then get a baseline for where you're at right now. Because the danger is that with all these new tools, and now you've got a great video camera in your pocket, in your phone, just start uploading video and going crazy. I mean, that's great, but it should have you want to start by understanding where you're at this moment, and then to be able to think about, how are we going to continue to improve over time? So get a benchmark, get a baseline of where you're at right now, get really strategic. This is what we do, is help people really think through their entire funnel, whether that's a marketing or a fundraising funnel or a client acquisition funnel. Like, video can be a tremendous tool at multiple points throughout your funnel to get people to convert, to get people to sign up, to become advocates for your organization. And then, just be strategic about it. And then, ideally you begin doing A/B testing. I mean, this is like level 301 that most nonprofits don't get to, but you can begin to do A/B testing, sending out 2 versions of an email with a call to action, one that has a video in it and one that doesn't, and begin to see which one's more effective and why. And you can begin to really get a sense then of what the return on investment is for producing video and seeing what really works for your organization.
That's such a great point, Doug. And I think this is a good segue into our next kind of like question here, which is, you talk about there's so many tools out there, so many types of videos we can create. What's the difference between creating videos for different platforms, say if it's on a website or on an email or on as a social media post?
So the first thing I always say is think about your audiences. Get really granular about who exactly is going to be watching this, where are they going to be watching it, what are they looking to get out of this video, what information are you looking to communicate. So by focusing on the audiences, that's really the first thing to do. And then secondly is begin to really appreciate and understand the medium that the video will be seen in, or the video platform will be viewed in. And there are some rules that exist, especially around social media. There's some really nuanced stuff on social media that can be the difference between making a video and seeing 8 people, including your mom and your best friend, like it, or having it really start to spread throughout your networks and have people really share it. And then you get exposed to all different kinds of new people through the algorithms of social media. And so we actually did a study, we called it the NonProfit Video Index. And in it, we looked at 778 nonprofit organizations' use of video on social media, on the big 3, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, for 1 year. And that's 45,000 video posts that we analyzed. And we had some friends help us, people who are much smarter than us, who do this kind of big data crunching. And from that, we found some really interesting things. Some things that really, I think, would be a transformative learning point for your organization of how to use video on social media to actually make sure that it engages and gets views. Some of the things, we identified 8 key learnings. And so a few of those real quickly here is that some content is intrinsically more engaging on social media than other kinds of content. If you've ever wondered, do like animals rule the internet? The definitive answer is yes. Cute animals will always get you a zillion views. So my advice is, whatever you do, just put an animal in the video. I'm just kidding. But it would certainly not hurt to have animals and kids and cute things. That's one of the most engaging types of video content. Secondly, emotional reactions captured in real time. Engagement is through the roof for that. So having someone learning about whether or not you received the grant, or learning about whether they graduated from your program, or receiving something in real time, and that authentic reaction is one of the most engaging types of media that we were able to identify from our study. Controversial topics, as you could imagine, is also a really engaging topic type of video. Emotional stories of beneficiaries, timely topical videos. Those are the 5 main content types that had the greatest engagement in our study. Another thing that we identified is that production value does not correlate with engagement, at least on social media. And in our experience, what we saw was actually it's kind of the opposite. A lot of times, the more engaging videos are the ones without the production value. It's user generated, it's a single take. It's just someone using their phone to capture something very authentically and in real time. So production value does not mean you don't need to have high production value in order to get a really engaging video. And then lastly, videos on social media, the ones that are the most engaging are short. Like the overwhelming majority of the most engaging ones are under a minute. And as I said earlier, like these could be a single take even of someone just sharing something, and those really, really perform well on social media. So this study is available on our website. I encourage people to go and check it out, tectonic.video, and you're able to navigate to the nonprofit video index and learn about these other things that we found. Because this is just one example of how by really digging into the medium, you're able to identify things that'll be really helpful in the way you structure the videos, and then the way you'll eventually get them in front of people, and hopefully they'll engage with them.
Yeah, definitely understanding your audience or who you're trying to target, and understanding what their interests are and what they would be passionate about is, definitely key. So yeah, I'll definitely, Doug, I'm going to share that link when we post this somewhere, probably in the description, so people can easily access it. All right. So Francesca, what are your thoughts on the differences between platforms for video creation?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you're asking this question, as an organization, you're actually already a step ahead of a lot of people. I think, Doug will see this too. So many times we see organizations creating videos just to create a video because they're excited to create a video, but before thinking about where they really want it to be placed, but again, it's so critical that your video strategy be built with both your audience and your channel in mind. So when we create videos for the World Relief website, we're often thinking about our first-time visitors. So people that really don't know anything about us, and we want to make sure that that video content is really simple and it's really compelling. So our brand video, kind of our elevator pitch, or a really, really great emotional, compelling story. But we're kind of asking ourselves, what is going to be that hook that gets them to take a specific action to engage with us, at the next level? So is that subscribing to our email list? Is it signing on to an advocacy letter? Maybe it's just exploring more pages on the website, or obviously, best of all, donating. But it's all about the journey of kind of moving them down that funnel from prospect to donor, getting them from just being kind of interested to actually taking a specific action on our website that will kind of deepen their engagement level with us. So conversion in one form or another is our primary goal for videos on our website. On social media, we do have a little bit more room to play, since the people following our pages on social have already engaged with us. They already know a little bit about who we are and what we do. They've likely interacted with some of our posts before, unless we're putting a paid advertisement in front of them. But we don't do that often. So here's where our campaign engagement and story-based videos get a lot of action. This channel, social in general, for us, the videos here are really about creating brand affinity, nurturing relationships, and building trust with our audience. So if we can push a great video on social that will direct traffic to our site and ultimately obviously convert leads and generate donations, that's awesome. But it's not typically our primary goal on social media. Then email is obviously the most personal of the three, because the people we're talking to in this group not only know who we are and what we do, but they also obviously value us enough to keep getting content delivered to their inboxes on a weekly basis. And that's a lot of content. So this group of people are really our champions, and we can get pretty personal with them with our content. So this is where staff vlogs and those direct-to-camera messages from our leadership play really well in this space. The even low-produced selfie straight-to-cameras embedded in an email play really well, and we often get direct responses to these. I think beyond all of this, it's, again, as Doug said, really about just knowing your audience, where they're at in their journey with you, and what they want to see and hear from you at each point along that journey.
Great. And so you guys both touched on, on videos that are just recorded by the phone. Everyone has access to a smartphone. And many nonprofits, as you know, don't have the budgets to create highly produced video content in their communications. So Doug, what are your recommendations for, some creative tactics nonprofits can use who have smaller budgets?
Well, you said it, using your phone is very accepted and expected in some parts of the communications landscape to have phone generated content. And using your phone, you can go a long way. There's some really great videos out there. If you just Google how to make great videos with your phone, you'll find some really great tutorials on capturing both video and audio. Audio is always the most challenging part of filming on your phone, and so there's lots of things that you can do, is from augmenting the audio by having a lav kind of attached to your lav microphone that you can clip on attached to your phone, or having even a boom microphone that comes out of your phone. Lots of things there to try and get the audio better. But a lot of the time the phones do an incredible job of being able to capture a lot of what a nonprofit would need for social media. And so by focusing on that, you're able to go a long ways. There are lots of other opportunities out there, especially in the life of every nonprofit. There is a season in which you are talking to friends of friends, asking for favors, and finding college kids who are looking to build their portfolio to help you out to make content for you. And that's a necessary part of every nonprofit's growth, is being able to rely on the kindness of friends and people who believe in your cause to help you create the content that you're trying to do. So there's lots of ways you can do that, lots of ways through social media and ways to advertise that you're looking for help to help out to create video content for you with pro bono or a very small budget. The thing I say, and right after I go through all those examples of how you can make things very cost effectively, is I also believe that a lot of the time people view cost as the main barrier to producing video content for a nonprofit. But I think that really isn't the reason why a lot of nonprofits find it hard to spend money on video. To me, the real reason is that they don't know how to quantify the return on the videos that they create. So, I mean, Nhu, if I said to you today, I will give you, if you give me $100, I will give you $200 tomorrow, I think you would probably take me up on that wager. The thing with video, though, is that people view it as like, okay, put $100 in there and then we'll never see that again. We don't know how to quantify it. We don't know whether we got any kind of return on that investment that we had. I think, though, with a little extra effort, you're able to determine what the return is on your video investment. And the returns are almost always significantly greater than the investment in the first place. But you have to be able to get to the place of doing testing, looking at the return on investment to be able to determine that. Because really, I think sometimes the question that you're asking is the wrong one about how do we keep things really cheap. It's more about how do we quantify that this is really working? Because if it's working, then it will pay for itself in spades if you're able to invest and do the right kinds of things to get video that really works for your organization.
Awesome. Francesca, do you have anything to add?
I just agree with everything Doug said. I think, about the videos not having to be highly produced. I think just being creative in the thinking about how you can, find a great staff member that's a great storyteller, get them on Zoom, with a couple of the program experts and record it. We've done a lot of Zoom videos the last 6 months. Is there a cool cultural event happening in one of the countries that you work in? Great. Ask a local staff member to kind of snap a video and maybe pay for adding a caption description or something that is low cost. I think not all video obviously has to cost a lot of money. And if you have someone in your marketing department that's willing to take a half day to learn some basic video editing skills on iMovie or Adobe, that's really all you need.
Yeah, and there's a lot of free content out there, free videos and that will give you a tutorial for virtually anything. Great. So Francesca, I'd be remiss if I don't touch on this topic. What has been the impact of COVID-19 on video strategy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the pandemic has altered our strategy probably in 3 major ways. The first, as I mentioned before, is really this uptake in the use of our staff to just film kind of on the ground vlogs. And again, a lot of research has shown that people's expectations around production value during the pandemic have really lowered. I think that has a lot to do with the relaxed nature of work from home and this less professional model of engagement that we're now kind of all experiencing. And I think our audience is also really desiring to hear from us and follow us, on the front lines as we respond to the pandemic. So that means we've really tapped into this strategy a lot more than we typically would. Whether that's a selfie style video from a staff member on the ground in Rwanda, or a slightly more formal email message from our president, we've had really positive responses. And the latter has, as I mentioned before, even seen some pretty personalized email responses come in. And of course, anytime you have that kind of direct engagement with your audiences, that's just great for your brand. So we've had a lot of success with that. The second, obviously slightly more unfortunate way is that we just can't travel to the field with a media team like we used to be able to. But that really means we've had to get more creative with how we put our videos together. So whether that's sorting through a bunch of B-roll that we've previously taken for the right footage, or like I said, stringing together these Zoom interviews. We've kind of got really creative in that area. But there have been some really positive outcomes of that. I think we've been able to involve more of our staff around the world in the production of our videos. We've been able to give them some training on best practices for using their cell phones, and just generally giving them the option to be a lot more involved than they otherwise have been in the past. And that's really increased our teamwork and strengthened our relationships with them. So that's been awesome. Doug and his team actually worked with us on our most recent video for our new monthly giving product, The Path, which was almost all shot by our international field staff on their cell phones in the middle of COVID-19, probably in March or April. And I actually think it's one of the best videos we've done in the last 5 years. And it's just so organic. And yeah, it's a phenomenal piece. The last way I'd say is just related actually to, again, to the restrictions on travel, but also gathering. And just that we've begun tapping a lot more into virtual events and video for virtual events, creating virtual events in a whole new way. So we've actually conducted about 30 virtual events in the last 6 months, and those have ranged from global galas with hundreds of attendees to these small exclusive webinars, with a country director. But either way, 30 is far more than we would typically do. In the new year, we're also talking with Doug and his team about creating this virtual trip experience for prospective donors and partners in the new year. Our goal really being to recreate the experience that they would have had if they had been able to visit our programs actually on the ground. And so we're trying to do that basically in a Zoom session that combines video, visual storytelling, and kind of facilitated discussion in a 1-hour interactive video event. So there have been some really cool and unexpected things that have actually come out of, the pandemic restrictions.
Well, I say that I'm extremely grateful that nonprofits have video to rely upon during this season, because without video, man, it would be such a way worse climate in which to try to continue to do the work of your organization. I mean, video, people, we've seen it do it. We've seen people pivoting already, and Francesca and her team are amazing at this. They've done an incredible job over the past 6 months, pivoting a lot of what they were doing to be able to make it work in this new environment using video to do it. And everything that she just talked about, the things that we're seeing as well too. I mean, for a good season, we were shut down. We are unable to travel. We're now traveling again throughout the United States. And when we're filming, we're looking like we belong in a science fiction movie. We have masks and helmets and gloves, and we're standing far apart from each other. It's kind of ridiculous, and yet it's what we need to do. People still need to have videos created to tell people about the work of their organization, and we're figuring out how to get it done. So there's that. But virtual events are huge. We're doing a couple of them right now. We're in the midst of those, putting those together. And there's a tremendous amount of opportunity here to really start to think through like how video can take the place of things that you used to do in person. Some of your programmatic work, obviously there's someone speaking in a room to a bunch of people for whatever it is, whether that's education based or training people about certain skills. Like, that's not going to happen anytime soon, but video can take the place of that. It doesn't have to be a fully produced video, or it could be something that's much more lo-fi, but video can stand in the gap there during this season. And there are lots of ways to get creative to use video in places in your organization where you were using someone face-to-face in the past. And we're seeing that happening. So that's really exciting. And like I said, I'm very glad video is here to help nonprofits during this season.
Yeah. Video, I think, has been a little bit of a saving grace for everybody in the world with COVID-19, because without, in-person contact, video gives us a way to interact and have conversations with each other without it being like a blank screen. You are still able to see people and see their reactions, somehow kind of human connection without, being in the same room as them, which has been nice, at least for me, during COVID-19 and during quarantine. Okay, great. So one last question for each of you. Francesca, I'll start with you. What's your advice for nonprofits?
Yeah, gosh. So I would say, and this really ventures into kind of the content of videos, but something that we've been focusing a lot on at World Relief has really been the importance of recognizing power dynamics inherent in the process of creating a video, especially when you are telling stories of other people and their lives. So when we're telling stories of our beneficiaries and trying to boil it down into under 3 minutes, I think it's incredibly easy to fall into simplistic storytelling that ends up looking and feeling very white saviory, or uses, poverty porn to grab attention. And that's just a really damaging narrative. And we do see a lot of organizations falling into that trap. When we're telling our stories of our beneficiaries, we're always asking ourselves, would this person be proud of the way that they and their country is portrayed in this video? Would they resonate and identify with the role that we've given them as a character in this video? Does this draw out our common humanity, or does it actually perpetuate this kind of us versus them mindset? And there are great webinars and other resources online that cover this topic of ethical storytelling, as well as informed and ongoing consent, which is obviously also crucial when you're dealing with any kind of media that involves beneficiaries. I'd say everyone on your fundraising, marketing, and media teams, if you have one, should be taking these courses, and it should be a continued conversation as you're enrolling in these video projects. It's just so important. Beyond this, I just say, video can be really daunting, especially as a small nonprofit, but it really is worth it. I think, of course, long-term ROI is important, but if you don't see that immediate return, don't panic. I think you will get there if you're creating valuable branded content, building trust, deepening those relationships, and connecting to the issues that people care about. So start small. Don't fly a full production team to Kenya. That's expensive. But get a staff member behind the camera, just see what resonates, test it out with your audience, and go from there.
Great advice. And you, Doug?
My advice is one that I give is one that I'm trying to receive myself, and that is, and I am in pain saying this, but this is going to be the new normal for a long time. This world of social distancing and trying to communicate without being able to be in the same room with people. It hurts me to say that, but that is the reality that we find ourselves in. And it could be this way for a year, more than a year, longer. I mean, I can't get my brain there, but I think the key is if you begin to ask the questions of okay, so if we need to be in this place for multiple years and we still have to do the vital work that the world needs our nonprofit to do, how can video help augment that? How can video step into the gap between what we were doing before and the world that we live in now to help us continue to accomplish our mission? I mean, just asking that question, getting your team around that, getting volunteers, getting your board to begin to really ask that question can come up with some really helpful and I think valuable things that you could do for your organization that would help lots and lots of people. And if you don't get your minds around that question and start asking that question right away, you're going to lose valuable time because people need your help right now. So World Relief, as I said, has done an amazing job thinking about this. Other nonprofits are doing great work with this too. Another example of an organization that I think is doing a really great job with this in their communications is CARE, the humongous nonprofit out of Atlanta. They do a really great job with their internal video team and getting updates from around the world and sharing stories and then doing some produced things and re-releasing old stuff as well to keep the story fresh in people's minds. I'm always inspired by the work that they're doing. And then, the last advice is we will get through this one way or another. I really think video could be a saving grace, as you said, Nhu, during this time for your organization and for us individually as well.
Yeah. I completely agree, and we're definitely not out of the woods yet. And I think a lot of people are optimistic that, in-person fundraising can resume. But I mean, in Philly, at least, the cases are now starting to increase rapidly this past week or so. So I guess we will see, and I agree, Doug, that we could still be in this situation in a year. I hope or not, but you never know what could happen, especially with COVID-19 and trying to see if we can actually get a vaccine out there that is approved and accessible to everybody. All right, so that about wraps it up for today's episode. I want to thank our listeners for tuning in today's episode, and Doug and Francesca. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I had so much fun talking to you about video strategy. So thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insights and expertise.
Thanks so much, Nhu.
So on behalf of NonProfit Pro, we will see you on the next episode of the NonProfit Voice. Have a great day.